Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be talking about the Palmetto State Armory Gen 3 AR10. But before we get into that, I need to thank the sponsor of the video and the channel, and that is, of course, going to be Gun Deals. If you don't know, Gun Deals is a website that provides links and coupon codes to some of the best products in the industry. So go ahead and check them out. Whatever you're looking for, it's probably on there, and you can probably find a link for it for, again, the best possible price. They don't take your money. They don't buy or sell anything. Once again, they only point you in the right direction. On top of that, I also make exclusive videos for them over there on their YouTube channel. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and check them out. They have been very, very generous with me and helping me to shoot as much as I have been, even when ammo prices are going back up again. And of course, if you want to help me out personally, you can like, share, and subscribe because all that sort of stuff is free. I also have a subscribe star, which is basically just a pro to a Patreon. If you subscribe over there for a couple bucks a month, you get some additional content and get entered into some cool giveaways. Now, speaking of giveaways, right before we get into the video, this is the Swamp Fox Arrowhead 1-8 that I bent during my testing. However, Swamp Fox was kind enough to get another one for you guys. So they are doing a giveaway. It is going to be the first link in the description. Go ahead and check that out. It's not going to be on any of their social media. It's only going to be for my guys who watch my channel. So go ahead and sign up. I believe it ends in the middle of September. So go ahead and get yourself entered to win the Swamp Fox Arrowhead 1-10 model. And with all that out of the way, I should mention how I came about owning the Palmetto State Armory Gen 3 AR10. So as I mentioned earlier, I do work for Gun Deals, and they actually purchased this rifle and sent it out for me. However, I ended up trading them about $1,200 worth of videos for the $1,200 rifle that you see in front of me. So personally, I don't have any sort of relationship with Palmetto State Armory. I have bought a lot of stuff from them in the past, and I've done videos on some of their products. However, again, I don't have any personal relationship with them, and I'm not required to say one thing or the other about this rifle. So now let's go ahead and get rid of some of the base boring specifications so you guys kind of understand what this rifle is. So it is their Gen 3 AR10. Basically what that means is that they have slightly different cuts in their lower and upper receiver, so it's more compatible with more bolt carry groups, because as we know, DPMS pattern AR10s do have quite a bit of variances between the originals, high tops, Gen 2s, and then this one here, what they call the Gen 3. And so there are some various minor improvements there. Also on the Gen 3, we have an 18-inch stainless steel barrel. It is a 416R stainless steel barrel. It is a 1-in-10 twist, which is perfect for 308. It is chambered in 308, not 7.62x51, so it accepts both just fine. We do have a mid-length gas system with an adjustable gas block. I believe the gas block that they use is the Superlative Arms one, though I could be wrong about that. They might make this one in-house. Again, not quite sure. The gas block, I set it in the first 2 rounds, and I have not adjusted it since, and it has been absolutely flawless for the past 800 rounds. And then, of course, we have a fairly nice M-Lok handguard, which is quite nice. It's made in the USA. It has M-Lok on the 3, 6, and 9, and then Picatinny all along the top. It's nicely scalloped and dehorned. The machining on it is quite fine. All the M-Lok is actually in spec. I believe it's 6061 hardcoat anodized aluminum, so nothing special there. The upper and lower receiver are forged 7075 T6, which again is perfectly fine. One downside on the lower receiver, I would say, is that the magwell is not really flared all that much. They could definitely flare out a lot more. Not a big deal on an AR-10 since most people aren't going to be concerned with their, sub 2-second 1R1s with an AR-10, but again, it is a nice feature to have. Everything else on the upper and lower is mil-spec, forward assist, dust cover, magazine release, bolt catch. Everything is very, very standard on here except for the trigger, which is phenomenal, which we will get into a little bit later. Moving on to the rear. We have a Magpul CTR stock, which is quite nice, very, very comfy, very, very strong stock, no problems there. And it also has a very nice twice staked castle nut. So basically what that means is that castle nut should never come loose, so that is just a nice feature. Also with the Gen 3, they use a standard size buffer tube, so they have a slightly shorter heavy buffer. I believe it comes with an H1 buffer. However, I have an H2 Odin Works adjustable buffer in the back right now. Also, we have a very standard 7075 charging handle. It's just your standard mil-spec style, nothing extended or anything else like that. It's perfectly fine. And then the last little thing on the lower receiver is we have an over-molded A2 style grip. So it's basically an A2 style angle without the finger groove, and it's very rubbery, very grippy. It's nice enough. I prefer more shallow grip angles like the Trinity Force, the new one that they make in the USA, and then also the Magpul K2. Those are basically my favorites. All right, so now with all of the basics out of the way, now let's go ahead and talk about how it performed. And it performed extremely well. So up to this point, over the 3 to 4 months that I've owned this rifle, I've taken it out dozens of times. I've taken it out anywhere from 0 to 400 yards. That's mostly the longest that I can get here in Washington State, or Western Washington anyways. So getting super long range with this just wasn't doable. However, I have done a lot of shooting in between 1 and 400 yards. So in terms of actual round count, we're at around 800 rounds, and I should mention that again, I set the adjustable gas block within the first 2 rounds, and it was perfectly fine. They do include a very long tool, a very long Allen key, so you can adjust it without taking your handguard off, which is quite nice. However, I lost it, so I haven't adjusted it since, although I haven't needed to. And if I haven't mentioned it, the reliability over those 800 or so rounds has been absolutely perfect, and that is without cleaning and without lubricating it whatsoever. I basically just ran it as it was from the factory, and I have not had any issues whatsoever. Now, I do have it set a little bit punchier than it needs to be. I could definitely tune it down a few more steps, but as you'll see in some of the slow-mo footage, it is a very, very soft shooting AR-10. Most of the ammo that I put through it, I want to say I put through 300 rounds of steel case like Wolf or Tula 308, and then I also did about 300 rounds of reloaded 308, which was very, very light loads. And then on top of that, a bunch of M80 ball and about 100 rounds of match ammunition, and it has performed and ate everything no problem whatsoever. So we are going to take this apart real fast so I can show you guys the bolt carrier group. The bolt carrier is a very standard DPMS style bolt carrier group. There's nothing special about it at all. So here is the Gen 3 bolt carrier group. It is a very standard profile. It has a little bit more material removed than like the Aero Precision bolts that have like a full profile cut on the bottom and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I do like to see a little bit more material removed off the bolt carrier group, which they do on this bolt. Now it is absolutely disgusting. I'm not sure if you can tell on here, but it is bone dry and it is just absolutely coated in carbon. I shot suppressed for probably 500 to 600 rounds, so about 70–80% of the shooting that I've done with this rifle has been suppressed with my non-flow-through just 4-1 can that just dumps carbon back into the rest of the system, and it has again functioned very, very well. Now after 800 to 1,000 rounds, we do see exactly where we would expect it. On all 4 rails on the bolt carrier group, you see a lot of the coating removed. It is a nitride bolt carrier group. It is not chrome lined or anything else like that. We do have grade 8 fasteners that are staked substantially well. The recoil, or sorry, not the recoil, the locking lugs do have some material removed from the corners, and there's some wear on the face of the bolt as well. Fairly standard for AR-10s, which are going to wear a lot faster. And generally, in my past experience, I have always wanted to clean them every 500 rounds to make sure that they work flawlessly. However, with this one here, since I just don't have access to that much ammo, I just can't keep dumping hundreds and hundreds of rounds because it's very expensive to do, especially all that match ammo. So without cleaning or lubricating it whatsoever, it has still functioned flawlessly, though there is some, I don't want to say advanced wear, but pretty normal wear and tear on the bolt carrier group itself. Now, certain bolts have a very, very tight fit to the carrier. One thing on this bolt is I have noticed is that there's a little more wobble in the bolt to bolt carrier fit. Not sure if that's a big deal or if it's done for some other reason, but there is a little bit more tolerance there than what I've seen on other bolts. Again, has functioned flawlessly. The only really special thing that they've done on this bolt carrier is it has an enhanced power extractor spring, and the extraction on it has been very, very good. Like I said, it has not had any issues whatsoever, and that's without cleaning or lubricating for about 800 rounds in an AR-10 suppressed, which is generally more finicky than like your standard 5.56 ARs. And you can definitely feel it right now. It is very grimy and gritty moving back and forth just because of how much gunk is in the system. So I will need to actually take this apart and clean it, but I do want to say that it has ran, again, 100% flawlessly without cleaning or lubricating, mostly suppressed, crappy ammunition up to this point. Now, one very, very mild upgrade that they have to this rifle is it does come with a black nitrided gas tube versus your standard stainless steel gas tubes. It makes a difference, but not much of a difference unless you get this gun extremely, extremely hot, which 99.9% of people are not going to do. So it is the distinction without much of a difference. Now, the barrel on here, we mentioned it already, 18 inches is basically the perfect length for an AR-10 or battle rifle style of gun. I think that it does a really good job of managing velocity without being too long and too unwieldy, especially depending on what loads you're putting through it. Now, this barrel profile is it looks almost like an M4 profile, though it doesn't have the weird cuts in the end of the barrel. It's more of a mid profile. It's not a government. It's not a SOCOM. It's kind of like, again, kind of like a middleweight profile. So I was not expecting exceptional accuracy out of the barrel. However, spoiler alert, it performed exceptionally well. Now, I've put about 100 rounds of match ammunition through this gun, both in some of the long range shooting and in some of the accuracy testing. So instead of me talking about the accuracy on the barrel, I'm just going to roll in the video footage of me shooting the accuracy testing. Now, I should mention that this is done from the prone at 50 yards. Why 50 yards? Because that's what I have access to in Western Washington. That is not crazy overgrown. Also, the highest magnification power scope that I own is a 8 power scope. So the one that we did the accuracy testing on was this US Optics TS1-6. Spoiler alert, it's a very poor optic, but this is what we did the accuracy testing on in this very nice worn mount, and we did it at 50 yards from the prone with a very nice tripod that was locked down to the gun. And again, this trigger is excellent, though we'll get into that in just a minute.
Nice. Nice.
So is the PA10 Gen 3 a MOA gun? Absolutely. It is in fact a sub-MOA gun if you feed it the right ammunition in the right conditions, and of course you do your part. Now that is, of course, accuracy testing is always anecdotal to my accuracy results with my ammunition with this barrel on that day, so it doesn't necessarily translate to what accuracy you're going to get out of it. However, I would be incredibly surprised if you were not able to get down to 1 MOA with, again, the right ammunition. So accuracy, very, very impressed. And even though it is more of a middleweight profile barrel, I don't need the extra weight because I have the accuracy. All right, so I've mentioned it plenty of times. Let's go ahead and go through this trigger so you guys can actually see it. So this is a 2-stage trigger. This is their upgraded trigger. I think they call it like their MDT, or I don't know who actually makes the trigger or if they make it in-house, but it has a very defined, very clicky wall, but that wall breaks like glass, and it breaks at about 2.5 pounds. It is extremely light. The first time that I've had other people pull this trigger and myself pull this trigger, it breaks. It almost feels like there's no wall whatsoever because of how light the wall is. But if you're very careful with it, you can get to the wall, you can rest your finger on it and then build pressure just a little bit until, again, it breaks basically like glass. Now, speaking of weight, This is a very heavy rifle, even without any optics or anything else on it. I believe on their website it claims it's like 9.5 pounds naked, and that's because AR-10s are going to be heavier guns unless you're spending a lot of money on like a POF, which is like $1,500 to $2,000, and then you get like a 7-pound gun or something like that. So this is, you know, fairly standard for an 18-inch kind of DMR 308 style gun. And it is still going to be lighter than like your FOWLs and your G3s and other sort of more surplus, older style 308 battle rifles. However, this is still a heavy gun, so it's not something that you necessarily want to be running and gunning with, although you will see me do some of that in the intro and some of the other footage that I'm rolling in. However, it's not ideal for that, obviously. Now, this is one of those guns where the use case is basically whatever you can think of for a 18-inch 308 gas gun. It has been 100% reliable. It has incredibly accurate. It's not crazy heavy for a 308, though it is not going to be on the lightweight side of that spectrum either. So basically anything that you can think of for a 308 battle rifle style of gun, this will fill the role and do it at not a value price point, but not towards the top end of price either. I wouldn't really call this a budget gun, but it is a very, very high value gun. The guns complete are like $1,100 to $1,200 from Palmetto State Armory. This one has the upgraded stock, technically speaking, and the 2-stage trigger, which is excellent, so we might as well get into that. But for the money, you do get an exceptional amount of value. And again, this will do anything that any other gun 308 will do in that same price category. I would not compare it to much more expensive guns like the LMT or like Knight's SR25s or anything else like that. This is not going to have the longevity and the true ultimate reliability that those guns are going to have. But for around $1,200, this is definitely going to outclass most, if not all, guns in this, or at least 308 guns in this price category. So the trigger on the gun combined with the very, very accurate barrel means that you can basically hit whatever you want to, given that your skills are up to the task. So if you were to say, hey, will this $1,000 rifle go 1,000 yards? Again, with the right ammunition, with the right skills and the right conditions, absolutely. I don't think that this would be much of a problem whatsoever. The only thing that I would change out on this rifle whatsoever is just the grip. I would spend like 20 bucks on a MacBull K2 or something like that, and then this rifle would basically be perfect. Now, the barrels are overgassed from the factory, even though they say that on the Gen 3s they don't do that anymore. They are still very overgassed from the factory, so you will need to adjust the gas down. But once you have it set to a comfortable position, again, after 800 rounds, not adjusting this gas block whatsoever, it has maintained the same gas pressure in the system. At least I have not been able to tell from first round to last round any difference. And again, it has worked very, very well. And because you can tune it to your specific ammunition. Again, I had it tuned to run basically anything because I ran anything from the crappiest Wolf ammunition all the way up to Hornady Black and Federal Sierra Match King, that sort of stuff. The only thing I would say if you were planning on picking up one of these guns is go ahead and get the version that has the 2-stage trigger. I think it's only like a $40 or $50 price difference, and the trigger is absolutely excellent. The other version comes with their enhanced polish trigger, which I do have several of them in guns behind me. But this 2-stage trigger is just absolutely phenomenal. It is very, very fast. You can basically bump fire it in your shoulder if you really want to, because that second stage is incredibly light and incredibly crisp. So overall, I think this is an excellent rifle. No, I don't think it's going to compete with, again, the LMT or the SR25 from Knight's Armament, but for more normal price range for people looking for gas guns in this price range, again, anywhere from $1,000 to even $2,000, this is going to do an exceptional job for 99% of people, provided that you have a realistic use case for a long 308 gas gun. So that is about it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, especially all of you guys who actually made it this far into the video. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think of this rifle down in the comments, or what I should be checking out next, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off.